Hey, Yvonne here, succession planning expert, executive coach, and the creator of Succession app. Do you have a Rip Van Winkle on your board? So what do I mean by Rip Van Winkle? Some of you may recall the fairy tale of Rip Van Winkle. An older man, married, doesn't like to do chores around the farm, goes wandering in the woods, and comes across a number of men who give him a potion. He drinks the potion thinking it's something good to drink, and ends up falling asleep under a tree for 20 years. So he misses his daughter's wedding, his wife dies in the meantime, but he wakes up after 20 years. Now, I'm not saying that any of your board members are taking a potion and falling asleep that way, but do any of your board members actually fall asleep during board meetings? I know that you might be laughing at this point, but it does happen, and I want to tell you a true story. So, I had a client who wanted to do an executive search. They had a CEO who said, I'm retiring, you need to do an executive search. The CEO had been there a really long time. And so none of the board members knew how to do a search, had never been a part of a search, so they hired my assistants. So let me tell you a little bit about the board. The board was 9 members, seven of them were male, 2 of them female, and I would say the age range was from about 40 to about 80s, in their 80s. And so a few of them were in their 80s. And then they had been on the board, most of them, for 15 years or more. So what the board decided to do was to create a search committee of 5 people. So 5 out of the 9 were on the search committee. And so I met with them, I met with the full board, we talked about what they would be looking for in a new CEO. I started doing the search, we were working on it, it was going along without a hitch. And so it came to the day when we had to get together and interview the final candidates in person. So there were 4 candidates and the board wanted to do them all in the same day. So we started at 8:30 in the morning with the first candidate. So we walked in the room while I was getting everybody set, and all the 5 board members took their places. And then I was sitting at kind of the end of the table where the candidate was going to sit. And then there was a board member across from me and then around the table. And so then I went to get the candidates, and they each came in and sat there, and I asked all the questions. And so the first one's at 8:30, like I said. And by 9 o'clock, I'm looking across the table, and this board member is like, his head is slowly going down, his chin is almost touching his chest, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that board member is falling asleep during an interview. And guess what? He was the one directly across from me who was kitty corner from the candidate. And I was like, I kind of was looking at the person next to him thinking he could nudge him, and he did, but he woke up, but then again, he fell asleep again right away. And this continued to happen with the second one, and then we took a lunch break. And I said to the board chair, I said, that board member is sleeping through all of these interviews. Maybe you should ask him to, if he's not feeling well, maybe he doesn't really need to be here. And the chair said to me, Yvonne, this person has been with us for 40 years on the board. He just celebrated his 85th birthday. and I'm not going to send him home. So the interviews continued. He continued to sleep through them, and then we got to the end. And of course, he wanted to have input, which was kind of interesting because how could he have input because he was sleeping through them? But here are some issues with the story. First of all, what kind of impression does that make on each of the CEO candidates when you have a board member falling asleep during an important interview? And the interview and picking a CEO is one of the most important things that a board has to do. How much input do you think that Sleeping Beauty should actually have on the board? Why was that board member picked? Like, why would they pick that board member to be on the search committee? They had 4 other people who they could have picked to be on the search committee. So, why was the chair reluctant to ask him to leave? That's part of the chair's duty, is to make sure that everyone's participating and to take some of those stronger actions. Is also, I think this is really important, is retaining that board member who is probably falling asleep at board meetings as well and not participating, is that causing some underlying tension on the board? So here's what I think you can do. First of all, make sure that all of your board members understand their roles and responsibilities. Are they engaged? Are they coming to all the meetings, not just the board meetings, but committee meetings? Are they asking questions? Are they attentive at the meetings? Are they respectful and trusting? Then, when a board member's term is up, don't just automatically put them back on the board. I think it's important to take a look at how have they been performing as a board member over the last year or two. Is it time to get a new board member on the board? And then third, I think you need to take action if someone isn't holding their responsibilities up on the board. They're not engaged, they're not attending meetings. And take action as a board to either let them know, give them a warning, soft warning, or ask them to potentially leave the board. I mean, it is very, very important to make sure that you have active, engaged board members. So make sure you don't have a Rip Van Winkle on your board. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below to get information on succession planning, what you need to know.